Hey there guys, it's Metro, and today we are continuing to take a look at all the Legion dungeons in hope of offering a refresher, both from myself and potentially for you as the viewer. I'll let you know right now, I don't remember many of these dungeons very well at all. Today we're going to be taking a look at Eye of Azshara 20. So I really hope that you who do remember these dungeons may be able to offer great comments and advice for those of us who do not, including myself. So let's get to it. This is a very unique dungeon, one that a lot of people probably look back on fondly. It's very free form, and there's a lot of count that is needed in this dungeon. And if you simply take a path that will get you to every boss, you will not be anywhere close to having enough count typically. So it's a very unique dungeon for that reason, but also a few other the mechanics that occur. But yeah, typically you're going to be seeing very large pulls in this dungeon. You do need to know where you're going as well. It's unlike other dungeons like, Dark Heart Thicket. You can't possibly get lost in Dark Heart Thicket. There's no way you can get lost in that dungeon, but this dungeon you could. So what we're doing is making kind of like a beeline down the left here. A lot of this trash doesn't really do anything from what I can remember. These shellbacks, they kind of maybe do like a shield that you could stop. This Storm Reaver, that storm ability, you could interrupt that. Otherwise, it does probably a lot of damage around the character. The Crusher, I think, just does like a frontal. Also does like a big AoE type ability. I think that's what we just interrupted there. I think the Mighty Slam, it's probably not even a frontal. It's probably just a tank type mechanic. It didn't seem to take any damage from it. So yeah, just a lot of interrupts, a lot of potentially big pulls in this dungeon. So I think you're going to see, I don't really think, again, if you haven't seen what we've been talking about with these Legion videos, a lot of these dungeons, the trash is just, there's not really much going on the trash. There's like one or two mechanics that you need to do right, and then everything else is just a joke. So you see that storm go out, we interrupt that, did do a lot of damage. There's a caster back there healing, it looks like. It looks like these oracles, these guys are healers. So we want to make sure we're kicking those revitalizing waters or whatever it's called. But otherwise, yeah, very straightforward packs. Actually, like nothing. To be honest, rejuvenating waters. That's it. That's the only thing. Just make sure you kick that. I can't even tell what the warriors themselves are doing. I think they're putting some kind of bleed on me or something. Doesn't really seem like anything's actually happening from these mobs. So, it might depend on tuning, but for the most part, I'd say from what I've seen in this dungeon, a lot of the trash is going to be fairly straightforward, but the bosses will be the interesting thing. So here's the first boss, and I'm going to tell you right now, you're probably going to have a lot of problems with this boss, okay? There's not a lot of mechanics yet again, but the main mechanic is he's going to be summoning ads constantly. Two ads, all right? Both do casts that you want to try to interrupt. But the main thing about these ads is they have to serve as a barrier from you and a mechanic. And if they don't, somebody is going to get hit by a very severe mechanic that you really don't want to be getting hit by. I think it's an insanely long stun or something. And it also does very, very high amounts of damage. So there are ways to deal with this other than the ads, but the way it's supposed to work is the ads are supposed to get hit by the mechanics. So he's always going to charge, leave that sandy stuff on the ground. As the tank, you want to try to leave that in a patch, like a big patch instead of just a bunch of individual lines. Try to keep them all together. Blood DK is excellent for this fight because you can grip the mobs close to the boss. You could even Gore Fiends the mob on top of a player if you see them not doing the mechanic right, to make sure that they're always an arrow is always passing through. But here we see a small mistake that could happen. So the Crest Rider is almost, or the melee mob is like almost dead, and then the caster is not. So ideally, we hit the one that we want to kill the fastest, and that time it just hit the closest mob. So these are small mistakes that you might see occur. And especially if you're not a Blood DK, it might be difficult to get both of these mobs in melee, but it's probably not a bad problem. In fact, I remember in the beginning of Legion, a lot of people were just CCing the caster. And I think maybe even as non-Blood DK people were still doing that, but they would just CC the caster and then use that one as the target. Like just leave it there at full health and then run behind the CC'd mob and it would automatically die. So you never even have to kill it. But as Blood DK, I can get them both onto the boss. So it's like, yeah, okay, no problem. We kill them both. Just don't kill them too quick. It's the main potential mistake here. And if you do, then somebody has to soak the mechanic with an immunity, or you have to have some kind of way to get the stun off the person. So I'm pretty sure, again, Blood DK could be very good for that. I don't know if AMS would have any interaction with it, but I'd imagine Icebound would help a lot there. So I remember seeing Blood, or whatever, mage, like Frost mages using Ice Block. paladins using bubble, bop, stuff like that to do this fight if a mistake did happen. So I can just see a lot of people not having any idea what's going on, potentially killing the ads quickly, or yeah, I don't know, like not doing the arrow properly. But that's actually the only mechanics yet again. So it's pretty common. A lot of these fights just have like 3 mechanics, and they're all very important. Now we're going to make a break for the left here. There's a way that you can actually go right as well. It's not a very recommended way. I actually did it as kind of like a meme a long time ago, and it's like people were very upset about it. So I don't think you ever go right. There's like just, I don't know, this is just the better way to go regardless. But I think what we're looking for here, I'm not 100% sure at this point, but Hate Coil Arcanist, this seems like, we need to kill these, I guess. So I'm pretty sure we only fight 2, which is a strange number of them to me. But it seems like you gotta kill them, and then the next boss, Lady Hate Coil, will become active or attackable or whatever. So I guess 2 is what you're looking for because that's all I see in the footage. Problem is in this dungeon there's a lot of these yellow mobs, so you really got to make sure you're not getting too close to these things, or you're not getting into combat with them. If you don't know, like a yellow mob, it's not going to aggro you. You have to aggro it, and if you do, then it's going to be attackable. And the problem with this dungeon is it's like count is very squirrely. We're going to do some things in here that I don't think are going to be possible anymore. So I don't know what to recommend in terms of count, but just make sure you'll see there's some combinations that you really want to try to make later. But anyway, these Arcanists, polymorph fish, I assume that's dispellable, but also interruptible. So is the Aqua Spout. We probably want to stop as many of these casts as possible. Arcane Rebound as well, I assume. All of these things do damage, but to get hit by that, I mean, the freaking Pharaoh Druid in the group gets hit by that, but it's like you just move out of it. It's not really that big of a deal. There's not really that much going on some of these mobs either. So I do think this might actually be one of the easier dungeons of the 6 that we're going to have because from what I remember, there's not really any crazy like one-shots in this dungeon, but here's another very unique fight. This is also a 5-boss dungeon as well, which is, relatively rare, but this is a very unique fight. There's these patches of land, and then there's this water, okay? And both of the main mechanics of this encounter are going to deal heavily with this concept. So you'll see the first one here, Static Nova. You want to stand on the land. If you're in the water, you take a ton of damage, and I think you get stunned. There's this Curse of the Witch too. I'm pretty sure that's supposed to like do damage to the ads in some way. I don't fully remember how this works, but the other mechanic, Focus Lightning, you need to get away from the land. If you'll do damage to everything around you, including the land. If you're standing on it, you'll break it, and then you won't be able to use that portion of the land again. So it's very possible that you could actually do such a bad job with this that you will not be able to continue the encounter without failing that mechanic. So there's also this tornado. It's going to knock you up in the air. You'll see in the footage here in a bit, the paladin actually gets knocked up in the air and he has to bubble because as he's in the air, the mechanic is happening. And if he doesn't, he will make a big error and probably die. So yeah, that's not great. I would say this fight is actually very unique, but it's not very dangerous. And you see that giant purple wave. I think that has something to do with the debuff that's on people. Guys, I don't really remember. I don't really know what these globules are here for, but I think like where you see the paladin bubbles there, and if he doesn't, he's gonna die because he's not gonna be able to get on the land there. But I'm pretty sure this debuff is supposed to kill these globs because they actually have a lot of health. It looks like. I just don't. Yeah. You see that giant purple thing. I honestly think that's I can't remember to be honest. Like I think that's a crucial part of killing the ads because I don't think you're gonna kill them on your own. But anyway, we're going to, it's just those 2 mechanics over and over again. So just make sure you don't break all the land. Make sure you don't, stack on each other or something like that. Looks like there's a knockback too, but you could see a couple times, like I think a rogue stood on the land and he broke it. But in general, this is a really easy encounter. There's even trash up there that we don't even fight. Like it's actually just not a thing. It's just like not a factor. Yeah, so there was that purple thing. Let's see if we can't take a look at that. Yeah, it's as soon as that curse dispels or goes away or whatever, it does a bunch of damage or something in a frontal. I don't know if it hits players too, because every once in a while I see these guys like moving around and stuff. But yeah, as long as you guys don't all stack up on land and you spread those 2 mechanics properly, it's actually very easy. It's a strange fight, but So this is like the problem here. So I don't want to take the boss too close, because if you are so close and then you have to spread around for the mechanic, people are not going to move away from the boss, right? They're going to want to keep attacking the boss, and then they'll just hit the land. So you want to keep the boss relatively not on top of land. Okay, so now we're into the second part of the dungeon. This is like where the volume of the trash starts to become extremely high. Um, we're always looking to make big pulls here, so you'll probably like this a lot with the AoE cap being changed. This is going to be a lot of high volume in the next probably 10 minutes of this dungeon. But I think these droplets, they put a slow on you that eventually stacks to 100%, because I can't move here. So yeah, with the paladin, you would definitely want to get that off one way or the other. I would say, yeah, obviously freedom works fine, but regular dispel does too. I remember these seagulls being a real pain. I don't remember exactly why. I think they try to like disorient you or do something to you. But the problem is a lot of times they're like, you miss them. This is the boss area. What we're in right now is actually where we're gonna fight the boss. So you need to clear this all out. Like you can go right to the boss right now if you wanted to. I'm pretty sure, but if you don't, you'll be fighting the mob there. So that hard shell did this armor thing. I think if you let that go off, it's gonna take way less damage. The Hydra, I think it has a tail swipe and does like that lightning thing, rolling storm. Not really sure. It just dodged, I guess. I mean, it looks pretty obvious to me that you want to dodge that. I think one of them goes out in like random areas and another one kind of like shoots out. I think that's what's happened. So yeah, we're gonna get again more AoE packs, and we do need to clear this out anyway. So like I think a lot of these pulls I'm making because we're very conscious about what we're gonna be doing in this encounter. It's not always just for count, but yeah, you see, really dispatching these groups very quickly. There's a lot of patrols, a lot of high volume here, one way or the other. So I don't know. I'm not really sure what it's gonna look like now, but yeah, certainly you're gonna be in combat with a lot of mobs for a long time. This is like a very unique dungeon for that reason. So there's the boss. You can actually see this giant green head. That's the boss, technically, and you just need to clear out all of these. What you're looking to clear out is all these areas around these pools. Anytime you see like a pool of water, that's a place that the boss can interact with. And you see we're actually being pulled by wind here. That's part of the boss. It's actually a mechanic on the boss. So once you kill the boss, that stops. So if for some reason you wanted to kill the boss first and then do the trash, it makes it a lot easier or whatever. But yeah, I'm not really too worried about it. I think we're just kind of preemptively getting some of this trash anyway because I know we need it. Oh yeah, there's another Hydra there too. I will give you a tip. I had this happen a lot. The Hydra pat's very close to the boss, so I could see this being an issue with Super Strain. I remember as a prop paladin, it was a major issue. If I threw Avenger's Shield at the Hydra, it would bounce to the boss. Okay, so that's a very, very, very big issue. You do not want to aggro this boss early. You will definitely die. So I'd imagine the same issue might happen with Super Strain as Blood Decay, because I know the undead disease or whatever the yeah, unholy disease, it like it's got a bigger radius on it or something weird. So okay, so I think we cleared everything out. We're gonna go for boss now. Looks like there's like a lobster down there still more, but I don't think we're gonna pull that. Okay, so this boss is a real pain. This is like one of the most melee unfriendly fights I think there's ever been in any Mythic Plus. But it's not too bad. It's just like you really would favor range here, especially range with high mobility or mobile, like range that don't get punished by moving. So that's really just Hunter at this point. In Legion, it was a little different, but I would imagine it's just Hunter at this point. So there's this like green puddle, like you're gonna dodge those. There's also like green stuff being left on the ground from a mechanic. I don't know which mechanic it is. We'll try to isolate that, but the winds are like gonna try to push you away from the boss and make you get hit by these spits, which is not ideal. But you see the boss is gonna go down, and now a second boss is gonna spawn. Okay, so we have three different colors, and they're both gonna do different mechanics. I think the purple one is just straight up damage to other targets. The green's rampaging, like constantly throwing out damage. That's like the main boss, right? And then there's going to be the red one I think is going to do a big AoE burst that you need to interrupt. So I think the way Blizzard probably wanted you to do this was they wanted you to kill all three of them. But if I remember correctly, I honestly I can't tell because it's like so from what I can tell, I'm just tanking this one, and the others are killing the other stuff. I think is what's happening here. I don't really know about that because it doesn't like my camera is not functioning in a way that I can tell, but it does look like that rogue is like not attacking this boss, so he's probably attacking something else. Um, and yeah, I guess you could stun them and stop them in other ways. So I think you do just want to get them killed as fast as possible. And that's why melee kind of sucks for this fight because they're going to be very far away, potentially in places that you don't want to go. So, and again, so if you didn't clear out parts of this trash like that lobster down there, you would be actually unable to get there, and then range would be the only ones. Like they would have to kill that mob without you going near that trash. So that's definitely a big part of this fight. The platforms, the place you fight it on, is a huge part of this encounter. But yeah, I would say I think you typically just have your DPS go and kill. Make sure you lock down the two different ads, especially the red one. I think if it gets that cast off, it's very bad. But in general, I don't know. I don't really think it's gonna be. It's just like a weird encounter, and it's a very long encounter, and there's a lot of movement based stuff. So anyway, that Pharaoh Druid has. I'm trying to figure this out. He's got something on him. I don't really see what it is. Poison Spit is the regular mechanic, and then he's got something on him that is just dropping puddles. So must be another mechanic somewhere. Toxic Wound, I guess, is what the name of it is, based on DBM's thing. And that's it. And then Violent Winds is the push around. So I don't really the fight is kind of just annoying. If I would say from a tank perspective, it's just a very annoying encounter, like not a fun encounter to tank. Constantly being pushed around and stuff. It's just not really engaging, I would say. Okay, so that's it for Serpent Tricks. That's actually the fourth boss on the list, and again, it's because we could have went the opposite direction, but now we're gonna somebody aggro's this. So like this is a mob that I think you probably want to just aggro this. I'm just not really sure what's going on with count right now, and you're gonna see why. But it's definitely there's a lot of trash in this dungeon, and you're gonna make the right choices with trash. So as you see, the group is actually talking about percent. I think if I remember correctly, the way I used to like to do this was try to get all the count at the end, and I think that's what we're gonna do in this footage. Whether or not that's how it's gonna be done now, I don't know, but I think it's probably safer, right? Because like we're gonna actually end this dungeon with we're gonna need like 20+% count, and I think that's a good thing because like especially now with how classes work, you can probably make some really big pulls out of the end of this. So you see the final boss, but in order to do the final boss, we have to go and do some other stuff. So this is actually a skip, I think, right? I'm confused at why I'm confused. Yeah, it looks like we're doing some kind of skip here. I highly, highly, highly doubt this is possible anymore. I remember doing this with a warlock. I'm just not sure what, but this is actually like a really, really big skip. Like there's so much more trash in the middle of the dungeon here. There's not really like I actually don't know what we're doing here. Is it does it not work again? I remember people using like a warlock to go, but then I think I also remember people using a mount. Could we like fast forward this? I don't know what the hell's going on. Actually, I have no idea what we're doing. I think they're trying to jump. Yeah, what the hell is that? Okay, that's definitely not gonna work. That's definitely not gonna work. Interesting. But that's what Legion Mythic Plus looked like. A little bit more of the Wild West back in the day. But you see all those lightning things, that's actually part of a boss as well. So like the different mechanics that happen in this area are because of the bosses. And once you get them out, then like those things will go away. So I just don't really know what's happening here. I think you're meant to jump or something. I don't know how we got across there, to be honest. I actually have no idea. So if you guys do know or remember any of that, let me know. Otherwise, all we're doing is just skipping some trash that we eventually need to get the count made up for anyway. But it's a lot of trash. Like, we're skipping a whole wing. We basically got to the boss. Like, we're now at the next boss. So we skipped an entire wing of trash. It's actually really insane, to be honest. But here's the next boss. Yeah, so I'm not really sure. Yeah, I guess we're good. Like I said, we have 70% count right now. So anyway, so here's the boss. Ground slam. He's going to target that at the tank. It's a giant, big circle. So you want to try to push that against a wall so others don't have to dodge it as well. And then you're going to have to dodge it every time. And then there's that quake mechanic. I think there's some movement relevance there. I think what happens is every time he does the quake, he leaves a quake on the ground. So yeah, you have to keep dodging the previous quakes or something. You can kind of see it right there. There's like a little like an impact area, and you definitely I think it just keeps repeating it. So we're probably just going to keep dragging the boss. This fight's another pain because you're constantly being dragged around and stuff. But yeah, you're just basically dodging a bunch of ambient stuff on the ground. And I don't think it's particularly dangerous considering. Oh, I think those blue things are actually going to knock you up. You see how they're shooting up like a geyser? I think if you get hit by them when they're that geyser, you get knocked in the air. But otherwise, that's it. It's like a very easy fight. I think there's also some shield thing that goes on a person. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, I'm pretty sure there's like a shield that you have to go break or maybe heal. Gaseous bubbles. That's it. Yeah, you see there's a shield on the rogue. Just not sure what it is. There's a shield on a lot of people, it looks like. I'm just not sure what it is. Oh, I think it has to break on damage. And if it doesn't, something happens. So yeah, you see the rogue is like going around and getting hit by mechanics, it looks like. But I don't know what the purpose of breaking it is. But I think that's it. Yeah, it has to be broken on damage. Maybe you can't be healed until it's broken. That sounds right. I don't know. It's interesting. These fights are all so odd. The dungeon is so weird because of how, like, I mean, look at this. We're 70% count and we're going to be done with 4 out of 5 bosses. That's very absurd. I mean, that's basically, I don't think you're going to do it this way, but the good thing about this is like you're not really missing anything in that hallway. That hallway is all very basic. There's not, I think there's like a big guy and a bunch of merc goblins or whatever, like a bunch of fodder. But so here's a great example. Like you're gonna have these yellow mobs that just kind of invade. Like they just kind of come out of nowhere. They're all over this dungeon. It's really built like a zone. This dungeon is actually a zone. You can go to it right now, and the whole thing is there. And it's really built like that in the dungeon itself. Like there's just mobs everywhere, and that makes it an interesting Mythic Plus, but a bad dungeon if you ask me, because it's just kind of dumb when you just have a mob rant. Like it's very difficult to get, to get what you want count wise, I bet. But it doesn't really matter because there's so much leniency on count. I think you're actually going to have no problem with that now that, especially with the AoE thing. Oh, these snails actually do like a really dangerous, yeah, that abrasive slime. It's a big frontal, and you see that guy walks right into it. Like, what the hell? This is from the end of like people are talking about BFA in this stream. This is like 2 years into Legion. This guy just walks right into that and he just gets one shot. So yeah, those snails do a lot of damage. But yeah, now we're just gonna run back down to the other boss, and presumably that's it. We're gonna do that boss and then like a lot of trash. So let's see what we do first. So this boss also has like a mini boss. See, that's where we came up. If you couldn't tell, like you're supposed to fall down on that ship, but people were finding ways to get up there. So these mobs are actually grippable. There's like these ritualists they're going to be channeling on the boss, and you could you stop them. They have a lot of casts. Aqua Spout, we're moving out of that. It's kind of similar to the previous mobs for the second boss. Just a few interruptible things. Arcane Bomb. I think that's part of the fight as well. I think it needs to be dispelled. If it puts it on a person, and then that person carries it with them wherever they go until it's dispelled. And then once it's dispelled, it's on the ground. So you want to have it dispelled and then move out of it, or potentially move it out of the group, then have it dispelled, then move out of it. There's that polymorph fish again. Lightning blast. I don't know. That seems like it's not hitting the tank with that. But yeah, you have to break all. Actually, it looks like there's 4 of them. So I think we used to try to do 2 and 2. But I don't really know why we would not be doing that now. So maybe not. Yeah, that lightning blast is definitely not hitting me. Oh, magic binding. Huh. Yeah, I just don't remember all these mechanics. I think that was like a root. I think everybody gets rooted or slowed or something like that. It's just a lot of interrupting one way or the other on these guys, and I think yeah. So they each have a mechanic, and we've seen all of these mechanics before. So it's just deal with them. I think as they come, and make sure you don't let those casts go off. And there's that arcane bomb again. Okay, cool. All right, so this is the final boss. Again, we have only 80% count, but this is the final boss, and this boss actually starts at 20% health because this is actually like, I think it's from the zone or something. There's some story here, but it's just like a giant. You can barely even see the boss, but it starts at 20% health. So it's really good if you're like a warrior or something like that. That's a major mechanic there. Massive deluge. You got to move out of that. The problem is there's also all this nonsense on the ground again. There's that crushing depths mechanic. Okay, so this needs to be soaked. Yeah, this needs to be spread. The guy bopped him. I don't know. I guess it worked. I don't fully know. It's a giant mechanic though, and I'm pretty sure you have to spread that. Like you have to be all in it to spread the damage of it. But this is a good fight for warrior because you'll be in execute range the entire encounter, which certainly I'm sure helps. And then there's that wave, like all of this ambient stuff, and it's the same type of fight where there's like a bunch of position based stuff that's the fight is not necessarily dictating. It's like the dungeon is doing it to you. So there's another tornado. I think you're gonna, yeah, we're all gonna stack up in this. Yeah, so it's a great fight for AMZ, obviously, AMS as well. And then you got to move out of that massive deluge. But there's all these other things happening, right? Like there's the tornado, there's the little lightning strikes, and then there's the wave as well. So you might move out of one thing and into another, and you just need to kind of stay ahead of that. See that guy gets hit by that, and it does a lot of damage. But that's it. There's also something that I just saw be dispelled, so not exactly sure. But from my perspective, this fight was always extremely difficult for the groups, and like insanely easy for me. Like it just never did anything. But you see, you got to stay in that, but not get hit by all this other stuff. So that's like the trick there. There's all these things on the ground that you have to dodge. Okay, so that mechanic, that's what I was. That's like that arcane bomb mechanic. So you see how that was on that? I think it was on that rogue, and then it was on him while he had it, and then it got dispelled, and it stayed where it was when it was dispelled, but it's still there, and you still have to dodge it. So if it's on him, it's going to hit him no matter what, but others can still dodge it. If it's off him, it's going to stay where it is, and it needs to be dispelled. So yeah, that's now on the warlock, and you're going to get it dispelled back there. Okay, so that's a relatively easy mechanic to understand, but yeah, see those tornadoes, man. That is the real. I freaking hated that part of the fight because these tornadoes would just be in the way, and you're basically trying to move around in a circle. You're constantly going around because you're dodging this mechanic and then restacking, dodge, stack in a general area. So these mechanics could be handled. Because if you're all spread out, you can't deal with any of these mechanics, and it's a pain to heal, huge pain. So we have 6 minutes left. We need 20% count. That's pretty nuts. It's not common that you see that, but again, I don't think you'll see this anyway. Just be aware that if this does occur, this is how you finish it. Otherwise, you're just gonna do that. You're probably gonna get a large amount of that count in the cave that you would have normally had to go to. So these guys, if I remember, like I think most people probably aren't actually gonna see this part of the dungeon, but if you do end up fighting these guys, I think they do like a big poison or something like that. I don't know. Stuff just died so fast in Legion, man. It's actually insane at how much burst AoE damage people had in Legion. That's a big part of why they added the AoE cap in the first place, was because you would literally just kill some of these packs so fast that you don't even know what they did. Like they never actually did anything. But yeah, just trying to combine here. We need a lot of count. Like I'm actually interested in seeing how we finish this up. But I have a ton of 3 different poisons on me, so guess it's a good time to have a poison to spell. I have like 2 stacks of 2, 4 stacks of one, 3 stacks of another, and they're all dispelled. So that's pretty funny. That guy's saying like you should be getting like a ton of packs and trying to speed pot and grab them all together. Now we're just like back at the beginning, just grabbing a bunch of trash. I don't know. I don't really see. Yeah, there's that. So that snail. I'll tell you, if there's one tip I can give about the trash in here is really try to avoid that snail, because if that abrasive slime happens, it's very likely to hit somebody. It's just like, especially with how people just kind of AFK on trash nowadays in Shadowlands, people are just not going to do that mechanic. They're just going to get hit by that. I mean, like we saw with that paladin. As you see, it did almost 10 million damage to me, but that was during enraged. So I don't know how much that's going to do now, but okay, I think we're finally done with count. But as you see, very free-form dungeon. What we did in that circumstance with that druid thing, I didn't fully understand it, so maybe you guys will have commentary on it, but I didn't really fully understand what we were doing anyway. But I doubt it's possible. It might still be, I don't really know what we even did, but I do remember people using a warlock gate. That's probably been fixed. And then that jump thing. I don't know if that was the druid leap. Like druid used to have like a leap. I think they still do. It kind of just propelled the druid forward. So, and then at that point, I think people would get up on a mount, like they would get on the 2-seater mount, kind of like they do that in spires every once in a while. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about this one. This will be an interesting dungeon. This has a very unique trinket in it. It's actually got a trinket that I think is going to be very good for 5-mans, but you have to be in DPS spec to get it. So I think we'll probably talk about that when the time comes. So thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.